Autumn Encounters. It was early October, and the vibrant hues of autumn were beginning to paint the landscape. The crisp air was filled with the scent of falling leaves and the promise of seasonal delights. Today, I had decided to visit a local pumpkin patch in the charming town of Brookfield, known for its warm community spirit and flourishing orchards. The atmosphere buzzed with laughter and chatter as families and friends gathered to enjoy the beautiful day. As I moved from one pumpkin to another, savoring the joys of the season, I couldn't help but notice a group nearby, animatedly choosing their pumpkins. I felt a warmth in my heart, witnessing everyone's excitement for the harvest festivities. I was lost in my thoughts when I suddenly felt a gentle tug at my pant leg. Looking down, I found a small girl with curly brown hair hiding behind me, her big brown eyes sparkling with mischief. "Hi there. What's your name?" I asked with a smile. She giggled and pointed enthusiastically at the pumpkins, clearly unwilling to come out from her hiding spot. Just then, a woman came rushing over, an enchanting figure with warm eyes that mirrored the girl's. I felt my heart skip a beat as she bent down, her expression equal parts concern and amusement. "I'm so sorry. She tends to get a bit too adventurous sometimes," the woman said, her smile brightening the space between us. "It's all right. She's a little pumpkin thief, ho?" I responded, chuckling. The little girl peeped out again, grinning widely at my comment. "I'm Meyer," the woman introduced herself, "and this little whirlwind is Emma. We've just moved here from Portland." "Nice to meet you both." "I'm Charlotte," I said, feeling a genuine connection with them. Emma, still peeking from behind me, declared, "A mummer says we can make pumpkin muffins." Her enthusiasm was contagious, and we all laughed. As we talked, I learned more about Meyer and Emma's new life in Brookfield. Meyer shared stories of her passion for baking and how she was eager to explore the local food scene. Emma, now fully emerged from her shyness, chimed in with her own tales of adventurous pumpkin choosing. After a while, we wandered over to the hayride area, where families were lined up for a scenic journey through the patch. The golden sun threw warm rays through the trees, creating a picturesque backdrop. Meyer looked at me and said, "Would you and your pumpkins like to join us?" I beamed at the invitation, and we hopped onto the wagon together, Emma squirming with excitement between us. We shared delightful stories during the ride, our laughter mingling with the sounds of the countryside. As the day progressed, we picked out a few delectable pumpkins and decided to settle down for a picnic under an old oak tree. I helped lay out treats I'd brought along, and in return, Meyer surprised me by pulling out homemade apple cider and pumpkin cookies. We chatted like old friends, exchanging tips on baking and favorite recipes. Noticing Emma getting tired, I offered to hold her while she sipped her cider. She nestled comfortably against me, and I whispered stories about giant pumpkins and magical adventures, eliciting giggles from her. Meyer smiled tenderly at us. There was something effortlessly natural and lovely about our connection growing stronger with each shared moment. "How do you feel about pumpkin carving?" she eventually asked, her cheeks reddening slightly as though she was opening up about something special. "I love it. It's one of my favorite fall traditions," I replied, my heart fluttering at the prospect of spending more time with her and Emma. "Great. Would you want to come over to our place tomorrow? We can carve pumpkins together?" Meyer suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. "Yes. I'd love that," I said, excitement bubbling in my voice. After enjoying the picnic, we packed up and made our way to the parking lot together. As we neared our cars, Emma turned to me and asked, "Will you come back tomorrow?" I knelt down to her eye level and smiled. Of course, little pumpkin. I wouldn't miss it for the world." Meyer thanked me for the wonderful day, and as we exchanged information, her gaze lingered on mine, and I felt a quiet moment of connection that hinted at something deeper. With a heart full of warmth, I knew that this day marked the beginning of a beautiful new friendship, perhaps even something more. As I drove home beneath the fiery autumn leaves, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the unexpected joy this day had brought, and I looked forward to carving our pumpkins together, a delightful start to what could be a lovely new chapter with Meyer and Emmer. The following day, I could hardly contain my excitement as I prepared for my visit to Meyer and Emmer. I gathered a few tools for pumpkin carving, sharp knives, scoops, and an assortment of stencils, and even baked a batch of my famous sugar cookies to share. The scent of cinnamon and vanilla filled my kitchen, adding to my anticipation as I packed everything into a basket. As I drove through the colourful streets of Brookfield, the trees seemed to wave goodbye to summer, their leaves swirling in the gentle breeze. Pulling into the long driveway of Meyer's home, I felt a rush of nervous energy. It was a charming house with a wraparound porch, adorned with hay bales and colourful gourds, a true autumn haven. Emmer was the first to spot me, racing out the front door with glee. "Charlotte, you're here," she exclaimed, her little legs pumping with excitement. "Hello, Pumpkin. Are you ready to carve?" I replied, kneeling down to give her a hug, which she returned with enthusiasm. "Mommer, Charlotte's here," Emmer shouted, disappearing back inside. Meyer emerged a moment later, her hair tousled playfully, looking effortlessly lovely. "Welcome. I hope you didn't have any trouble finding us," she said, her warm smile making my heart flutter. "Not at all. I brought some treats for us," I said, gesturing to the basket. "And I hope you and Emmer are ready for some serious pumpkin carving." Meyer chuckled. "We sure are. Come on in and meet my secret weapon," as she said with a wink, leading me inside. The living room was cozy and filled with wonderful decorations of autumn colors. Orange and brown pillows, long strands of popcorn hung along the mantel, and a handful of flickering candles adorned the table. In the corner sat a large stack of pumpkins waiting for our creative touch. "Meet Max, our little Halloween helper," Meyer announced, pointing to a fluffy black cat lounging on the windowsill. Max eyed me with indifference, as cats often do, before returning to his nap. "Hello, Max," I said, giggling at his aloofness. "All right, Emmer," Meyer said, kneeling down to her daughter's level. "Are we ready to get carving?" "Yes. I want to make mine look like a spooky ghost," Emmer exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with imagination. "Perfect. I've got just the stencil for that," I said, rummaging through my supplies. We gathered around the kitchen table, and Meyer laid out everything, while Emmer bounced in anticipation. As we each picked our pumpkins and adorned them with designs, our conversation flowed seamlessly, laughing over Emmer's wild ideas for ghoulish faces, and sharing stories of her past Halloweens. Meyer recounted tales of her childhood in Portland, while I spoke of my own pumpkin carving traditions with family. After I traced the ghostly outline onto Emmer's pumpkin, she eagerly began to help me scoop out the insides. "This part is so squishy," as she giggled, her little hands dunked deep inside the pumpkin, pulling out strands of gooey seeds and pulp. Meyer laughed at Emmer's enthusiasm. "That's her favorite part. Sometimes I find her hiding in the pantry, snacking on the pumpkin seeds we save for roasting," as she said, smiling fondly at her daughter. As we worked together, I couldn't help but admire the way Meyer interacted with Emmer. Her kind words, encouraging gestures, and the ease of their connection felt like a warm embrace. Propelled by the carefree atmosphere around us, I found myself feeling at home with them. Eventually, we finished our pumpkins, each one uniquely designed with character. Emmer's ghost pumpkin was the epitome of spookiness, while mine resembled a mischievous cat, and Meyer had crafted a lovely autumn scene with tiny leaves and playful swirls. "Now, we can roast the pumpkin seeds," Meyer declared, and Emmer's eyes lit up again. "Yay! I love those. As we prepared the seeds in the oven, Meyer and I got a chance to chat more privately while Emma watched cartoon clips. I really enjoyed spending time with you yesterday. It felt so, or effortless, Meyer said, her voice soft yet earnest. I turned to face her, my heart racing slightly. I felt the same way, I replied honestly. It's nice to meet someone I click with so easily. And you're an amazing mom. Emma is a ball of joy. Thank you, as she said, her blush evident. I've been a bit anxious about moving here and starting anew, but meeting you has made it much more welcoming. Before I could respond, Emma darted back into the kitchen, eagerly announcing, the seeds are ready. We all gathered at the table and enjoyed our pumpkin seeds, seasoned just right. They were crunchy and flavorful. Emma danced between us, sharing her excitement, and Meyer and I exchanged glances filled with unspoken understanding. After our snack, we carved little designs into the remaining pumpkins just for fun, all while Emma provided her best ideas. I found myself enjoying the day far more than I had anticipated, my heart swelling with happiness. As the sun started to set, casting a golden hue through the windows, Meyer suggested we take our pumpkins outside for a little photo session before we lit them. Emma jumped up, clapping her hands. Can we make funny faces? Absolutely, I said, transforming my expression into the silliest face I could muster, which caused Emma to erupt with laughter. After a playful photo session, we lit the pumpkins and placed them on the porch steps. The flickering candlelight cast playful shadows as the evening stretched into night. It was a magical moment, one I wished could last forever. Thank you for today, Meyer said quietly, her face glowing in the warm light. You really made it special for both Emma and me. I felt a rush of warmth. No, thank you for inviting me into your home and sharing your world with me, I replied, feeling a connection deepen between us. A soft breeze rustled the leaves around us, and for the first time, I felt an undeniable spark of something more than friendship. As Meyer leaned closer, her weight shifting on her feet, I sensed the perfect moment hanging in the air. Charlotte, as she started, and just as the tension swelled, Emma ran up, breaking the moment with her innocent laughter. Look! My pumpkin's the best, as she squealed, oblivious to the growing bond between us. Meyer and I exchanged glances, a mix of frustration and amusement in our expressions. Yours is definitely the most fun, Emma. I agreed, kneeling down to give her a proud hug, feeling the warmth of both her joy and Meyer's presence envelop me. As the night wore on, we shifted our focus back to Emma, who filled our evening with stories and laughter. The potential for something more definitive with Meyer lingered in the background, but what mattered most in that moment was the bond we were all creating together. Before I left, I felt the familiar flutter in my chest as Meyer walked me to my car. Let's do this again soon, as she suggested, hope in her eyes. Absolutely. I'd love that, I replied, the exhilaration of the day still pulsing through me. With a final wave, I drove away, my heart swelling with a sense of belonging. I couldn't wait for our next get-together, not only for the pumpkins but for the connection forming between us, one that felt as warm and comforting as the golden autumn sun shining down on Brookfield. The following week unfolded like a colourful tapestry, each day brushing against the next with vibrant hues of anticipation and joy. The crispness of the air hinted at the approach of Halloween, and I often found myself daydreaming about Meyer and Emma, replaying our pumpkin-scented adventure in my mind. After a few days, I decided to reach out to Meyer to suggest another outing. Hey! How about we take Emma to that fall festival this weekend? I heard they'll have hayrides, face painting, and a petting zoo. I texted her excitedly. Just moments later, my phone chimed with a response. Absolutely. Emma will love that. Let's plan on meeting at the festival around 10 a.m. I smiled, my heart fluttering. It was clear that our friendship was blossoming, and I was eager to spend more time with them. Saturday arrived, painted with brilliant golden leaves dancing in the morning sun. I donned my favorite flannel shirt and jeans, excited to embrace the day. When I arrived at the festival grounds, the air was filled with laughter, cheerful music, and the aroma of delicious fall treats wafting in from food stalls. As I scanned the bustling area, I spotted Meyer and Emmer weaving through a crowd of families. Both wore wide grins that melted my heart. Meyer was comfortable in a cozy sweater, while Emmer bounced beside her, holding a small stuffed pumpkin as if it were a treasure. "Charlotte!" Emmer called out, running toward me with her arms open wide. I knelt down and scooped her into a warm hug. "Hey there, little pumpkin. Ready for some fun?" I asked, ruffling her hair. "Yup. Let's go see the animals," she shouted, pointing toward the petting zoo with sparkling eyes. Meyer approached, her warm gaze meeting mine. "Thank you for suggesting this. I think we might have an adventure on our hands," she said, her excitement contagious. We made our way to the petting zoo, where Emmer immediately gravitated toward a fluffy sheep, squealing with delight as she stroked its woolly coat. Meyer and I exchanged amused glances, our bond strengthening through these small moments of pure joy. After visiting the animals, we explored various stalls filled with homemade goods, handcrafted decorations, and delicious treats. Meyer picked up a pot of apple butter, while I grabbed a handful of caramel apples, convinced they would be a hit with Emmer. "Look, Mommer! Caramel apples!" Emmer exclaimed when I showed them, her eyes wide with wonder. "We'll have those later, sweetheart. Right now, how about we get your face painted?" Meyer suggested, kneeling down to meet Emmer's enthusiastic nod. Soon, we found ourselves in line for face painting. Emmer stood excitedly, her expression a mix of impatience and delight as she watched other kids transform into butterflies and tigers. When her turn arrived, she chose a colorful pumpkin design adorning her cheek, which made Meyer chuckle. "Look at you. You'll be the cutest pumpkin at the festival." Meyer praised, and Emmer beamed with pride. As the day continued, we ventured from one attraction to another, playing games, participating in a scavenger hunt, and sampling sweet treats. By mid-afternoon, we stumbled upon a cozy corner of the festival where hay bales were set up around a small fire pit. "Perfect spot for a cozy break," I suggested, and we settled onto the hay bales, enjoying warm cider and sharing stories of our favorite autumn memories. I remember going to a similar festival as a kid. My friends and I would race to see who could collect the most candy from the booths, I shared, a nostalgic smile spreading across my face. Meyer laughed, her eyes reflecting the flame's warm light. "That sounds amazing. I used to love apple bobbing but always ended up soaked." Emmer giggled at the thought, her face painted and glowing in the sunlight. "Can we bob for apples next time?" she asked, her eyes lighting up at the idea. "Definitely. Next autumn, we'll make that happen," I promised, stealing glances at Meyer, wondering if this evolving friendship could become something even deeper. After our break, we decided to explore more attractions. The three of us joined in on a hayride, Emmer nestled comfortably between us. The ride was delightful, riding through the colorful foliage and laughing as we waved at other festival goers. As the sun began to set, casting a brilliant orange and purple sky, Meyer turned to me. "You know, this has been such a wonderful day. I can't thank you enough for always bringing such joy into our lives," as she said, an earnest look in her eyes. I felt a warmth spread through me, a comforting but exhilarating sensation. "I've loved every minute of it." "It's hard to believe how quickly we've connected," I replied, my heart racing slightly. Once the hayride ended, we wandered over to the corn maze, eager to challenge ourselves. We laughed and raced through the twisty pathways, with Emmer taking the lead, occasionally stopping to help us navigate. Just as we made our way to the center of the maze, Emmer declared, "I'm the maze master," and struck a triumphant pose. Meyer and I too played along, raising our arms in victory. "Well, maze master, what's our next adventure?" I asked, kneeling down to her level. "I want hot chocolate," Emmer declared, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Hot chocolate it is." Meyer grinned, taking Emmer by the hand as we headed toward the food stalls. The warmth of our friendship enveloped us like a cozy blanket, making the evening feel even more magical. As we walked, I couldn't help but notice the growing comfort between Meyer and me, more than just friendship brewing in the air. After enjoying our steaming hot chocolates and a few more rounds of various booths, it was time to head home. The evening air had grown cooler, and I watched as Meyer put her arm around Emma's shoulders, pulling her close. The sight created a flutter in my heart. "Thank you so much for today, Charlotte. This has truly been memorable," Meyer said softly as we approached the cars. "Any time. I'm glad we could have this day together," I replied, my gaze lingering on her. "I really enjoy spending time with you both." Emmer, still buzzing with excitement, looked between us. "Can we have another adventure soon?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with hope. I grinned down at her. "Absolutely. We'll plan something fun. Maybe a day of baking?" "I want to make cookies." Emmer squealed, and Meyer nudged her affectionately. "Looks like it's settled, then." "It's a baking date," Meyer confirmed, her eyes twinkling. With our plans set, I was more excited than ever. After a wave goodbye, I drove home with a smile on my face, the warmth of the day still dancing in my heart. As the weeks passed by, each adventure with Meyer and Emmer deepened our bond, weaving strands of connection that felt both exciting and comforting. I found myself drawn to Meyer, her laughter, her caring nature, the way her eyes lit up when she watched Emmer giggle. Finally, one evening after a delightful day spent baking cookies together, Meyer pulled me aside as Emmer played in the other room. She took a deep breath, her gaze serious yet soft. "Charlotte, I really enjoy spending time with you. More than just as friends," as she confessed, her cheeks slightly flushed. "It feels the same for me," I said, my heart racing as her words filled the air between us. "I know it's still new, but there's something special here," as she added, her eyes searching mine for understanding. "I feel it too, Meyer," I replied earnestly, feeling the weight of my own honesty. In that moment, with Emmer's laughter echoing from the kitchen, we shared a sweet, tentative kiss, a promise of what was unfolding between us. What had begun as a simple encounter over pumpkins had blossomed into something beautiful, and as I pulled away, I knew I was ready to embrace the journey ahead. Together, we would navigate this new path, and I couldn't wait to see what other autumn adventures awaited us. As the weeks turned into a blur of baking sessions, cozy evenings, and laughter-filled outings at parks, Meyer and I grew closer. Each moment spent with Emmer and her felt like a delightful page turning in a story I never wanted to end. The bond we formed felt like the kind that could weather any storm, especially as autumn gave way to winter. One crisp Saturday afternoon, we decided to venture out to a nearby nature reserve for a family hike. The air was laced with the scent of pine and earth, and the vibrant colors of fall leaves still clung on in patches amidst the evergreen trees. I felt butterflies in my stomach as Meyer's fingers brushed against mine as we walked side by side, Emmer running ahead, chasing after a squirrel that had momentarily captured her attention. "Memar, wait up!" Emmer called, her laughter echoing through the trees as she turned back to us, her cheeks flushed from excitement. Meyer laughed, capturing the moment on her phone. "Hold on, little explorer. We need to stick together." Meyer called back, her voice full of warmth. As we picked our way along the trail, smiling at each other and sharing stories, I felt an undeniable sense of belonging. After a while, we found a clearing that overlooked a stunning valley bathed in the golden hues of late afternoon sunlight. We paused to take in the view, and I felt the warmth of Meyer standing next to me. The moment felt perfect, almost magical, with the rustling leaves and the soft sound of Emmer gathering sticks nearby for a fort. "Let's sit for a moment," I suggested, motioning toward a large rock where we could rest. We settled there, watching Emmer's tiny figure as she jumped into piles of leaves, her laughter a melody that wrapped around us. "This is beautiful," Meyer said, her gaze shifting from Emmer to me. "I'm so glad we decided to come out here. It's a perfect day." "I'm glad too," I said, my heart skipping a beat as our eyes connected. "It feels special, just like everything lately." Her smile deepened, and for a moment, it felt like the world around us faded away. There was only her and me, bathed in the glow of the setting sun. Before I could gather my thoughts, Emmer bounded over, her face smeared with dirt and leaves, beaming with achievement. "Look, I made a tiny fort. We can be secret explorers," she declared, her hands on her hips like she was the captain of a ship. Meyer and I exchanged amused glances, and Meyer said, "That sounds like a grand adventure. Do you want us to help you fortify your domain, Explorer Emmer?" "Yes." Emmer squealed, clapping her hands together. As we engaged in Emmer's imaginative world of secret explorations and hidden treasures, I felt grateful for the simplicity of those moments, the giggles, the playful banter, and the way Meyer's smile lit up the fading sunlight. Later that evening, as we drove back home, I couldn't shake the warmth blooming in my heart. Meyer was animatedly discussing the next adventure we should take as a family while Emmer chimed in with her thoughts, her voice filled with excitement. I couldn't help but dip into my own daydreams of future escapades with them, perhaps even around a holiday table with baked goods, a big family in the making. Arriving back at Meyer's house, Emmer quickly dashed in, her energy unyielding. Meyer turned to me, her expression softening. "Thank you for today. It was wonderful, as always." "Thank you for inviting me. I love being part of your adventures," I replied, meaning every word. Meyer hesitated for a moment before saying, "It feels really nice having you here, Charlotte. I wouldn't trade it for anything." A comfortable silence fell between us, the kind that spoke volumes without needing words. I stepped closer to her, taking her hand in mine. As if sensing the moment, Emmer peeked back out the door. "Are you coming in now?" she asked, interrupting the atmosphere that had become so charged and filled with possibility. "Yes, we'll be in just a moment, sweet pea," Meyer said, looking at me with a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. Once inside, we settled in for the evening, enjoying homemade hot cocoa and cookies while Emma recounted her favorite parts of the hike. We sat on the floor of the living room, laughter ringing in the air, the warmth of family enveloping us like a soft blanket. That night, as I prepared to leave, I felt a mixture of happiness and anticipation swelling inside me. "Thank you for a lovely day," I said, kneeling to hug Emmer tightly. "You're an amazing explorer, you know that?" "Thanks, Charlotte. You should come exploring with us again," she said, her big eyes shining. "Absolutely, I wouldn't miss it," I replied, ruffling her hair before standing up to face Meyer. As we exchanged goodbyes, I noticed Meyer lingering at the door. I hesitated, then asked, "Do you want to talk for a moment before I go?" "Of course," she said, stepping outside with me. We stood together on the porch, the evening air cool yet comforting. "I'm really grateful for you, Charlotte," she said softly, looking into my eyes, her hand brushing against mine. "These past weeks have been incredibly meaningful." I took a breath, sensing the gravity of the moment. I feel the same. I feel like I can really be myself with you and Emma, and that's something I've been searching for. With the backdrop of a starry sky, our connection deepened, and just as I started to speak, Maya stepped closer, closing the distance between us. I could feel the energy vibrating in the air, and before I knew it, she leaned in and kissed me softly, a sweet melding of hope and promise. "Let's keep creating memories," she whispered as we pulled apart, her gaze searching mine. "Definitely. I'd love that," I replied, heart racing. We shared one last smile before I stepped back and turned towards my car, feeling a surge of excitement surge through me. As I drove home, the glow from our kiss warmed me, locking away a cherished moment that felt like the start of something beautiful, a story just beginning to unfold under the soft glow of stars. The weeks that followed continued to charm me, filled with twilight walks, baking sessions, and sweet explorations. It was during one of these evenings, while we folded fresh laundry together in Maya's kitchen, that everything shifted again. "Mama, can we decorate for Christmas soon?" Emma piped up, her enthusiasm palpable. "Of course. We'll make it a fun family affair," Maya replied, smiling. "I love decorating and making gingerbread houses," I added, my excitement bubbling at her suggestion. "Gingerbread houses? We should totally do that. Can we, Mummer?" Emma pleaded, her big eyes gleaming. "Absolutely. We can make it a whole day of fun. Maybe we can invite my sister over, too?" Maya proposed. Soon, our plans evolved into an entire holiday celebration, with gingerbread houses, cookie decorating, and crafting decorations for the tree. I found myself exhilarated at how quickly Emily had integrated into the fabric of my life. It felt as though I was part of a family I never knew I needed. On the day we decorated the tree, I captured moments and photographs, Emma giggling as she attempted to hang an ornament, Maya's radiant smile as she fluffed the branches, and the joyous chaos of flour and icing as we created gingerbread masterpieces. As the final touches were made, lighting the tree with soft, twinkling lights, Maya stepped back and exhaled. "Look at this. It feels perfect," she said, taking a moment to admire our handiwork. "Definitely star-worthy," I replied, basking in the warmth of the moment. With the tree aglow, Maya's hand brushed against mine once more, and I could feel the closeness we had cultivated deepening even further. We shared a knowing look, filled with appreciation and the promise of new beginnings. And in that moment, as we stood together, just as three under the sparkling lights of our creation, I felt a sense of happiness I had never known before. I realized that I was exactly where I belonged, and as the holiday season approached, it seemed to hold endless possibilities for us to explore as a new family, together.